MVP.
It's one in the air, left center field, back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
You never get ahead of yourself. As Harris down the field,
I know Randy's do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode. Well, I don't know. What do we can't call it an emergency pod because if it was an emergency, we would have been on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like is this like when the after school specials like on a very special episode of 3?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Christmas special that pops on.
I think that's what this is.
A special episode, nonetheless, of 3 in the Keystone. Myself and Al Ryan are here, and we are obviously here for a very special occasion. We are previewing the NLCS. Al, the Phillies, they get the job done, closing out the Atlanta Braves in 4 games, as you and I predicted.
Just as we thought.
Give us your thoughts of how that series ended and the emotion that kind of came with all of the antics in Game 4 and everything that was going on.
Just a dream series in the ups and the downs because we got to see the not so easy win in the 3-1 victory in Game 3, and then in Game 4. Excuse me.
And Game 3. Oh, the Game 3 was not easy one. You're right.
Right. And then we see the home run derby afterwards. So it's we got to see the highs and the lows. Probably took a couple of years off of every Phillies fan's lives. I can't imagine what it must have been like, that atmosphere down at the ballpark for that 3-1 game in the 7th inning with Acuna up with the bases loaded. I mean, I'm on my living room floor, rolling around, jumping up and down. Like but it's beautiful, man. It's why we're fans of the game, right? Because you're living and dying by every single pitch, every single moment. So when all said and done, I think it was a dream series for Philadelphia and the Phillies fans.
So we'll touch a little bit more on Atlanta, but we want to spend the majority of this episode previewing the NLCS. But before we do, Al, do you want to talk about SeatGeek?
Guys, perfect time, right? We know that we have home field advantage for the NLCS. So games 1 and 2, Monday night, Tuesday night. I'm looking at the app right now. Monday night, about $200 gets you in the door. Go to SeatGeek. Use the promo code 3K Podcast. That's the number 3K Podcast. You're going to get $20 off of that purchase. Every little bit helps when you're paying $200 for a ticket. And if you haven't been to a playoff game at the bank, what are you waiting for? You can feel the energy coming out of your television. Go down there and feel it for yourselves because you're there in person. Okay, so use the SeatGeek app and use the 3K Podcast promo code. $20 off. Yeah,
and it is for first-time users only. So if you've already used it once, put in your wife's email, make up an email. We all have those extra email addresses and make a new account. It's worth $20.
We're not asking questions.
Before we jump into the rest of the Brave series and the NLCS, do you mind if I do a little rant real quick?
Yep. Floor's yours.
So you scroll Twitter and you find it's almost like you open the app up just to piss yourself off. And I've been looking at these baseball, the analytics, the analytic people that are out there, and all they talk about is WAR, BABIP. They talk about FIP, and they're sworn to it. And it's been bothering me for so long, and I wasn't going to bring it up tonight. And then this one tweet pushed me over the edge, and I'm going to pull it up because I don't want to misquote Evan Maurer, who said, and take the timing of all this as well. This was on the 13th of October. He said the Phillies paid Nick Castellanos $20 million this year for a 1.6 WAR. The Reds paid Will Benson $750K for a 1.6 WAR.
What?
First of all, let me tell you something. This dude is a fucking loser. Second of all the times to put that tweet out after Nick Castellanos has just homered 4 times in 2 games, it drives me nuts. And I want to say this to the analytics guys. There is a place in the game for analytics. It certainly has value, but there are certain things that you cannot go to a baseball reference page and find out about a player or a team. And that's where I wanted to take this and transition it to the Phillies, because the two specific things that are so important about this Phillies team can't be found on a baseball page or a statistic. And those two things are this, Al. Number one, will a player or a team show up when the lights are on?
Yep.
And this team, we talked about it last week on the pod. After game 2, there were plenty of teams out there or players that would have folded the way that game played itself out. This team had no issue or thought of that game being anything more than a game 2 loss. Come game 3, the slate was wiped. Those guys were ready to play and perform, and that's what they did. On the other side of the card, you have the Braves, who are the analytic darling, the best lineup in the history of baseball. Me and you, we touted them. They were really, really good. But what happened now? The lights got a little too bright.
Folded.
The lights got a little too light for the second year in a row. Acuna, 40 homers, 70 steals. Nothing.
Absent.
Olsen, 55 homers. Nothing. Marcell Ozuna, 40 homers. Nothing. They all didn't show up when it matters most.
Yeah, 3 home runs in the series for that Braves offense.
Two from Riley, and then the other one
D'Arnaud. And here's what's ironic about it. And I promise that I'll let this go. But you talk about the guys that are unflappable moments like that when the lights are on the brightest, and it's ironic that another athlete in our city was in the stands for that game that has shut down.
Come on, we don't got to take cheap shots at
it. But to your point, when I think of the 2008 team and I think about that run that they had, even though they only won one World Series ring, I think about a guy like Ryan Howard, who was probably an analytics disaster. Now, I don't know that. I haven't looked at his stats, but I'm sure he was an analytics disaster. A guy like Allen Iverson, again, like never won a ring, but I'm sure an analytics disaster, but a guy that stepped up when the lights were the brightest, which is what the argument you're making is now. So yeah, that's a professional level troll job by the guy. I don't even want to mention his name again. I've already forgotten it and I don't want to hear it again. So on hit, like, bravo, dude, you got the likes and tweets and comments, whatever. You got ratioed, probably good for you.
Yeah. And the second thing that I mentioned, there's two things for me that don't stand out on a baseball reference or a baseball card, is whether or not you're a good guy in the locker room. And I have never seen in my life a team that has the chemistry that this Phillies group has. It seems like 1 through 25, these guys, they love being with each other. They love partying with each other. I remember when we clinched the wild card in the regular season and Chris asked, don't they seem to be partying a little too hard for just winning the wild card? Mm-hmm. That's what these guys like to do. Mm-hmm. That's how they roll. I've never seen a team that likes each other as much as these guys. And the next best thing would probably be like the 93 group.
Yeah. Yep. And you know what? They celebrate singles, and not in a cocky way. Like we'll watch a game and my son Jackson sits there and he asks me, why are they doing the thing for a single? And I'm like, dude, because they do it after every single hit. Like they genuinely love rooting for each other. That's the difference. These Braves players, they're all about me. They're all about a guy like Bryce Harper, every time he gets on that mic, he can't wait to hype up his teammates and praise his teammates, even though he knows he's the man. You'll never hear him say it. It's a different team, man.
And the two qualities, they tie into that, where it's easier to perform when the lights are on, when you have guys that have your back. When you know that your other teammates aren't going to perform, it's difficult to stay together.
Yeah.
And you saw it at its finest. Again, the Braves on paper are a better team than the Phillies. They just are. But when it matters most, those attributes stand out, and they do it in the playoffs. And to be honest with you, Al, there's another team playing in the American League that has those same qualities, and that's the Houston Astros. They've been to now 7 straight ALCSs. That team performs when the lights are the brightest. Like that's a trait. There's no surprise there.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. They're professionally made to win titles, Houston. Yeah. And they have guys that know what it takes to get it done, and they've gotten it done.
Yeah. So end of rant. Again, for those analytics guys, stay studying that stuff, but you need to open your eyes and understand there's more to it than just WAR and FIP and all that other stuff.
Real quick, because we're on that topic, one of my favorite content creators, a guy, I've read his book, Cousin Sal of Jimmy Kimmel fame. He put out a tweet. Now he's a Mets fan, and he's a snake because he's a Mets fan, but he's also a Cowboys fan somehow. but he put out a tweet, something bashing Stubbs, saying, "Oh, he must be the cockiest, 203 lifetime hitter of all time." And he just got piled on by people. You obviously don't get it. Like he's not like celebrating, hyping up himself. Like he's the team's hype man. They love it. He loves being it. And that's just, some people just don't get it.
100%. But let's get, again, we want to spend most of the time on the NLCS. I did ask you to do one thing for this series. Your 3 most valuable players in the series. Give me those, and then I'll give you mine, and we can move to the NLCS.
Sure. So I have 3, 2, and 1. My third most valuable player, my third star of the night in hockey terms, is Ranger Danger, man. Ranger Suarez, my third MVP. And I could have had him higher if not for the guys that you and I both most likely have at 2 and 1, just a matter of the order. I have Bryce at 2, and I have Nicky Bats at 1 as my MVP of the series.
Yeah, I flipped Ranger and Bryce just because I was trying to be different probably than what you were doing. But at the end of the day, look, Ranger took the bump twice against Spencer Strider, and as good as Strider was, and he really was good, that dude stepped up when it mattered. But Ranger outdueled him both times.
Both times.
Unflappable.
Barely. I mean, the hardest hit ball he gave up in the first game was that single to Olsen in the 4th inning. How many teams in Major League Baseball have a third pitcher in their rotation that's going to go toe-to-toe with a team's ace and beat him not once, but twice, once in his own stadium? Now, I know he didn't get the win in game 1, but he was well on his way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to pull up the actual numbers now, but again, I don't want to rehash what I was just talking about. But Ranger Suarez,
8 2/3, 6 Ks, 4 hits, a walk, and only 1 earned run in the 2 games.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up his career playoff stats because they're equally just as good because he was just as good last year. I'm not finding it right now, but I think he was something like 2 earned runs in 24 innings or something like that.
He's unflappable.
And this is a guy who, he's a nice pitcher. He didn't have a great year.
No, he didn't. We were worried about him from the beginning of the season when he was hurt. We were worried about him.
Here you go. His ERA in the playoffs in his career is 1.16 with a 0.85 WHIP.
I mean, this is Jimmy Butler status.
That's bold, but listen, he's been fantastic.
Dude, seriously, I don't know another third pitcher, on a team that's going to go toe-to-toe with a Spencer Strider and not blink.
Yeah, especially after, again, not having been that good for the entire season.
Yeah. Tom McGuire, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate you, brother.
Good to see you, Tom. Anybody who's watching, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But let's jump into the NLCS, Al. And, I think we have a team that we really didn't expect to see, the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are also coming in red hot, Al.
Yes.
They have not lost a playoff game. They've beaten 2 teams that they were underdogs in both series, the Milwaukee Brewers and then the vaunted LA Dodgers. And to be fair, they wiped the floor with both of them.
Yeah, they ran through them.
Absolutely. And the thing that's going to be tough about this series is, I was thinking about this earlier, is the familiarity, right? You have a guy like Aaron Nola who, how many times do you think Aaron Nola's faced Austin Riley or Ronald Acuna?
Yeah, lots.
Right? Millions. He doesn't need to go to the scouting report to know how he needs to get these guys out, whether it's, off speed away, whether it's up and in fastballs. We haven't seen a lot of these guys.
Right.
So there's going to be an unfamiliarity with these guys that, you have to all of a sudden now trust that scouting report because you haven't seen as many at-bats as, again, facing in Atlanta or facing in Miami in the first round, where you're facing guys over and over again. It's a little bit different. And it goes for the same thing on the hitting side, right? How many times have they faced Strider this year? 4 or 5 times? You know what he throws. Same thing with Max Fried. And this is just this season.
Yep.
So I think there's going to be a problem, and it's going to come on both sides, but that's where I think it gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I agree with you. And these guys they're just on a run, and it's dangerous, man. When you play a team that's hot like this, the bats are working. I mean, right now the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, if you look at all the offensive categories in the postseason, we're 1 and 2. The Phillies just hit, I think it was 275 batting average in the divisional series. The Diamondbacks one up them at 284. We both hit, I think, we hit 11 home runs. They hit 9 home runs in the series. So as far as batting and power right now, like we're neck and neck. The familiarity piece, I agree with you. Here's where I think, and I don't know if you're ready to get into some of the breakdown of the series, but here's where I think we have a large advantage. So they have two aces at the top of their lineup in Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly. And when you look at their stats at home, they are very good. They're dominant pitchers at home. Gallen has a 2.47 ERA. He's only given up 7 home runs in 16 games, 10.6 strikeouts per 9. On the road, different story. 4.42 ERA, 15 home runs in 18 games, and only about 8 strikeouts per 9. His counterpart, Merrill Kelly, 2.59 ERA at home, 9 home runs given up in 15 games, and 8.7 strikeouts per 9. On the road, it changes, 4.07 ERA, 11 home runs given up in 15 games, about 6 strikeouts per 9. So we get to see them obviously at home, games 1 and 2. And I think that in their cases, if they make a mistake, it might be a little too much for Arizona to overcome, because Arizona's going to have to play damn near perfect baseball to beat the Phillies at Citizens Bank Ballpark in either games 1 or 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the rotations as you brought that up. Again, they're very similar in nature in that they're both top heavy with 1-2, right? You have Wheeler and you have Nola, and you have Gallen and you have Kelly, and those are the horses for each team. Again, you're right. Gallen and Kelly, I had in my notes, have not been as good on the road as they have been at home. And obviously Wheeler and Nola Wheeler's been fantastic in the playoffs, and Nola came up big in game 3, as well as the Marlins series. After that, it's going to get a little bit tricky. And that's where, again, Ranger stepping up in that Braves series is huge, because the Diamondbacks, they're really weak in 3-4. You know, Brandon Pfaadt, for all excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, he's pitched okay in his 2 postseason starts, but he's not a world beater. He didn't have a great season. And then it's probably going to be, I think it's Ryan Nelson is the 4th guy.
Right,
and
right.
I don't think there's much there. But here's a question for you: is who's throwing game 4 for the Phillies?
Well, I think at this point it's going to be Walker. That's what I would think. But I would think it would almost be a game like we have with Suarez, where it's Walker for maybe 3 innings, and then you turn right to Sanchez for 2 or 3 innings, and then you just put it in the hands of the pen.
Yeah, but that's going to be tough because it's back-to-back days with Ranger pitching the day before,
Right.
so you don't know. That's where you're going to need a little bit more out of Ranger, because there's not as many off days in this series. The only off days in this series, I think, are the travel days.
Right. Well, and I think, listen, Rangers earned this, man. We know we're both saying the 1-2 guys are solidified for both teams. But where I think the big advantage is with that third starter. We can rely on Ranger Suarez to go into an Arizona and put the team on his back and give us 6 innings. I think that he's earned that, and that now at this point, Thompson has to trust him to get through potentially the lineup, going into a third time at the top of the order. Obviously we have to see how things play out, but I trust him, man. I really do. And when you have to have potentially a quote bullpen game in game 4, you want to save those arms.
Yeah, no doubt. Can I tell you something I think is I have a weird feeling about? It makes me like I'm a little strange. Is outside of the Miami series that we just had, this is the first series in the last 2 years where the Phillies have had home field advantage.
Yep.
And I almost don't like it.
Kind of weird. It's a weird feeling.
Because for me, it was like, let's go win 1 of 2 on the road, bring these guys back to our place, and then it was over at that point.
Yep.
And I have more faith in Zach and Nola going to win a game on the road than I do with, God forbid we lose one of those 2. And then I got Ranger and Walker throwing 3 and 4 on the road. And again, do I think it's probably going to get that way? I don't, but that's the path that scares me. If it's Ranger and Walker throwing home, and you got the Diamondbacks back end starters throwing in our yard, I have all the confidence in the world. But when you flip it, it kind of scares me a little bit.
I would be a lot more frightened if the Phillies didn't play the way they did just now in these last 6 games in the postseason. I mean, Arizona's hot, no doubt. So are we. We're seeing,
and that's what Tom said in the chat.
Yep, he said they're hot, but not Phillies hot, and I agree. And even if you want to say that they're equally as hot right now, we are better top to bottom. We're the better baseball team. There's almost, and you wonder how much of a sense in Arizona is it just a happy to be here kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I trust our top 2 to get it done. I trust Ranger Suarez. And then you know what? If Arizona, if they do have to turn to Ryan Nelson for game 4, the kid's a rookie and he's not good. He had a 5.31 ERA in the regular season. Like, it's not like they're turning to this rookie who has amazing stuff and the book's not out on him. And you know what I mean? We're going to be guessing up there. This guy's played a bunch of games and he was not very good.
Yeah, no, the pitching for Arizona had been a problem all year. Now the bullpen has seemed to solidify itself over the past month and a half, as I was reading today. Paul Sewald, who's their closer, they acquired him from Seattle. He's got a 1.5 ERA since the beginning of September. Kevin Ginkel has settled into the 8th inning, and both Sewald and Ginkel are going 4 innings in the playoffs without giving up a run. And then they have a couple of lefties in Sal Frank and Mantiply. But since the middle of August, that bullpen ERA is 2.85, and in the playoffs at 1.77. So they've seemed to solidify themselves there. But the Phillies bullpen's been really good as well. As even though it scares you half the time, scares you to death, they've done the job. They really did.
Yeah, and it's we talked about in the prior series how Philadelphia was matched up against teams with a lot of lefties. These guys don't have a lot of lefties. They only have 2 lefties. I mean, how do you say the one guy's name? Mantiply? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Mantiply.
So they only have Mantiply and Andrew Saalfrank. And Mantiply in his outings against the Phillies, the current roster, the Phillies have a collective 407 batting average against him. We talked about in the past that left-handed pitchers don't necessarily stymie the Phillies bats. And this is a guy that they have experience against and they have hits against him. And the other guy, Saalfrank, has no experience against Philly and vice versa. So who knows what we're going to see there. So it's a lot of right-handed arms coming at us this series. It's going to be interesting to see how the Phillies respond.
And all the starters are right-handed on the Arizona side as well.
All of them. Yeah.
Bill Kearney in the chat. Arizona's due for a loss. Come back to reality. What happens when it'll be 2 or 3 losses in a row? I hope you're right, Bill. And we're very confident going into this series. It does feel a little bit. Feels like it's our destiny to get back to the World Series the way that we're playing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just don't know how a young team like that responds to being down 2-0 going back home.
Right, well, we have to get there, which we'll see.
Absolutely. I'm not counting chickens. I'm just saying in that situation, I'd be interested to see how a team like Arizona would respond. If we played the Dodgers, I'd be a lot more like, okay, that's a veteran team. This is by no means a sure thing at this point, and we wouldn't have home field in that case either. But it'll be interesting to see how the young minds turn it around if they found that situation.
Let's go to the offense. I want to ask you 3 questions about the Phillies offense specifically. Number 1, are you tinkering with the lineup and moving Nicky Batts up, or are you just kind of leaving it the way it is?
Man, when I looked at the lineup, was it game 4 where he was
hitting 7th,
down in the 7 hole, and you got him under a guy like JT, who, I mean, JT's had his moments. It's not like he's playing as poorly as he was at points in the season. But he's still only hit 214 in that series. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think Castellanos is comfortable right now, and I want him to be comfortable. So I think I would keep him in the 7 hole.
Okay. I think you're right. I think it's not time to tinker until there's a reason to tinker, and just leave the guy hot. There's a difference between moving him 6-7 going to matter that much at the end of the day. I doubt it, but it's definitely something that I thought about. At certain times JT has come up in big spots, and you're like, hey, Batts is swinging it, so I really wish it was him.
Yep.
Are we going to get Kyle Schwarber going at all, or are we just going to deal with another one of the series?
I hope so, because it seems like he was really the only one that didn't get in on any of the fun that last series, right?
I think he had the double to lead off the series, and he kept hitting these high choppers over towards first base.
Yeah,
which is so unlike him.
Yeah, he connected on a couple of balls. I can't remember. It might have been game 2 where he took one to the track, opposite field, I want to say, and then he took one to deep center. But both were not great contact. Like, he got underneath both. Yeah. I don't know, man. Hopefully he does get going, because nothing gets the party started like a shore bomb.
Yeah, it's just, we talked all year. It was, when he's hot, it's so easy. Again, the analytics folks, I don't mean to trash on them again, but they come out of the woodwork with, he's got an OPS of this, despite his batting average, his on base is slugging. And dude, when he's going good, it's all good. But then he goes into these long slumps that can just be killers at times.
Yeah, because when it's not going good for him, there's nothing.
Yeah, you're not getting anything.
Nothing.
Last question.
Yeah.
Are we getting a Rhys Hoskins at bat in this series?
No, I don't think so. Is that
Rob Thompson seemed to hint that he's going to be on the roster.
You think that's in the cards? Well, Aaron Rodgers was throwing a football around apparently too. You think I don't think we're getting any Reese Lightning in this series.
I don't know. Could you see a situation where it's just so hard to throw a guy up there? He's had no major league at bats, but could you see a situation where it's the 7th inning and there's a lefty throwing and he pinch hits for Marsh and he brings in Hoskins?
After not recording an at bat all season long?
I mean, why are you going to put him on the roster?
You want to play hero ball? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to think about that.
And Bill asked a question in the chat. World Series home advantage, Phillies home. If play Houston, if play Rangers, they go to Texas. Yes or no? Yeah, so they would have home field advantage against the Astros. They would not have home field advantage against the Rangers.
Yeah, because of that sweep. The beginning of the season.
3 games
sweep.
of the year, they whooped
our
our ass.
If I recall correctly, on the pod immediately on that show, we were like, "Oh, what's wrong with the Phillies?"
I did say in that episode, I said, I don't think Texas is as bad as we're making them out.
Yeah, you did say that.
Revenge would be sweet. Well, that Houston team does scare me. I did want to kind of just go through a little bit of the Arizona lineup just to highlight some guys that, again, familiarity is one thing for the players. It's also something for the fans. So I'm sure a lot of our fans aren't that familiar with the Diamondbacks lineup. Corbin Carroll's the straw that stirs the drink.
Yep.
He is their rookie leadoff hitter. He is a spark plug. I think 50 steals this year, 25 homers, left-handed bat, outfielder, going to be an absolute star. He's the guy that's going to get the whole thing going.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I thought you had the stat. Ketel Marte is in a 2-hole. Also a nice little player there on the infield. And Christian Walker, Norristown's finest.
Oh,
is the
okay.
power hitting in the 4-hole. Yeah, dude. So true story. We had to be sophomores in college, I guess. And we were at home and I went up to a Roman Catholic baseball game, which was at John Boyce Field, and they were playing Kennedy Kendrick. And this kid on Kennedy Kendrick hit 2 balls that were just absolutely pissed on. One onto Walnut Lane Golf Course over the fence for a homer. And that kid was Christian Walker as a sophomore.
All right.
Yeah. So Kennedy Kendrick's finest.
All right. You've known him for a while. Kennedy Kendrick. All right.
But he's their power threat, 30, 33, 34 homers this year for them. Hit 260, 250, 260. He's a solid player, and he's been hot in the playoffs as well. All of their bats have been hot.
Yeah. I wanted Tommy Pham. We talked about him as a possible trade line acquisition for Philly at the trade deadline. He just hit 429 for them in the series, had a home run, scored 4 runs. And Gabriel Moreno had 2 home runs, 5 RBIs. But what really set him apart for me was in that game 3 when the Diamondbacks hit 4 home runs in the 3rd inning, and he hit one that was foul by about 2 feet. And then on the very next pitch, crushes a bomb the straightaway left center. Like, come on, man. Like that kid's seeing beach balls right now.
That they were lighting Lance Lynn up like a Christmas tree.
Never seen anything like that. That was wild.
Bill Kearney says he's lives in Utah, but he's flying home for the Eagles Cowboys game, maybe Flyers, and pray for a World Series parade. That's a triple threat. Good things come in threes, or is it bad things come in threes?
Oh, it's good things. And Bill, if you're going to go to a game, use the SeatGeek promo code. Use 3K Podcast. We get $20 off your tickets, and then come see us at the World Series parade. We'll have a beer.
I mean, Bill, you gotta acknowledge that in the chat. I mean, that's a deal of a lifetime there. One other thing. How about this? Evan Longoria.
Yeah.
Evan Longoria, who played against the Phillies in the 2008 World Series, still plays on this Arizona team.
Full circle. When I saw E. Longoria, I just figured it was someone else. Like I just figured it was Ethan Longoria. I can't believe it's the same guy.
Evan Longoria, and by all means, he is the leader on this team. From what I read, he is the veteran presence that's been there, done that, and he's kind of rocking and rolling with these guys. So, listen, Arizona's stoked. They've overachieved all year, and now we're in a spot where we're the favorite now, which is
we're the hunted.
A little bit different for us.
Yeah, we're the hunted. We're not used to that.
Do you think we were the favorites against San Diego last year?
It's a good question. I don't know. Looking back, I remember not being as worried about that series once we had beaten the Braves. I don't necessarily recall thinking that we were the favorites.
I hear you. I'm not sure either. I got to think with San Diego having home field that they were probably favored in that series,
Yeah.
although it was probably slight.
Yeah, well, they were. You know what? They were the favorites until that song came out.
Oh yeah.
We don't need to sing it. We don't need to bring it up. Everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. If you don't, just Google it. San Diego postseason song about the Phillies.
I know you want to do it. I can see it. It's
I'm
written all over your
struggling to get the beat in my head, but I can see the guy.
No, we got to move
Price is
on
going to
quick.
lose.
We got to move on quick. Can't do it.
Let's wrap and let's just do predictions here. You can go first. Where are you at on this series?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, since the run started for the Phillies last postseason, every series we've closed out, there's been a celebration in the Citizens Bank ballpark locker room, right? Because we've closed out every playoff series at home that we've won.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think that this series, there's going to be a celebration, but it's going to be over on the West Coast. It's going to be in Arizona. And the custodial staff at Citizens Bank Park is going to be very happy when the Philadelphia Phillies close this thing out in 5 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I just really, really think that Arizona needs to play a perfect series to beat Philadelphia, whereas the Phillies can make mistakes. They can afford to maybe, a miscue here and there. But after games 1 and 2 at the bank, which I think we're going to win both of those games, I think Ranger has just proven to be such a steady hand in that 3rd spot in the order. I think we go up 3-0. Maybe we lose 1 game. I don't know that we necessarily can sweep a team as hot as the Diamondbacks, but I just don't see a world in which it comes back to Philadelphia. I think we close it out in Arizona behind the arm of Zach Wheeler, our ace, our stud in game 5. And we're jumping in the pools instead of, spraying beers, dancing on our own in the Citizens Bank ballpark locker room. So give me the Phillies in 5.
Xfinity Live will be disappointed because that's a revenue booster when they close it out at home. That's for sure. I'm going to go in the same boat, but I'm going to go one more. I'm going to say Phillies in 6. I have that Phillies feeling that they're going to lay an egg in game 2, as they've prone to do.
Yep.
I can see the Aaron Nola blow up game coming. And I think we go back down to Arizona, and I think win game 3, lose game 4. Then Zach drops a dime on us in game 5, and Nola closes it out in 6. So I'm going to say the tradition continues of closing it out in Citizens Bank Park, and the Phillies will go to the World Series by beating the Diamondbacks in 6 games. But again, I wouldn't take this team lightly right off the bat. They are hot and they're young, so I don't know if they feel the pressure but they could also fold when they see an atmosphere like Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah, sometimes when you're young and stupid, the moment can't be too big for you because you just don't understand how big the moment is.
And there's no pressure. There's no pressure on that team.
There is no pressure.
And we can say we want San Diego had pressure last year. Like that organization had goals to get to the World Series. This is the first team outside of maybe the Marlins in the wild card round that we've played that really has nothing to lose.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Bill's asking about Brian Johnson. Bill, tune in Wednesday because the text thread between the 3K guys was hot tonight.
Did you say the 3 gay guys? What'd you say?
The 3K guys. The 3K guys.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do. That's a great point, though, Al. Before we wrap up this special episode, special note on the schedule this week. Obviously, the Phillies play Monday and Tuesday night. We will be broadcasting live on Wednesday. Audio version will come out Thursday morning, so you'll have a 1-day delay due to the fact that we're not going to broadcast during the Phillies game, and that will stay in the future. So tough.
Yeah. We'll see you Wednesday night. Audio drops Thursday morning, but be sure to join us then.
All right. And until then, we're going to drop that beat.